What's going on, fellow YouTubers? This is One Shot with Family X Gaming, bringing you a tutorial today on tunnel bores. Um, just a couple things to note right off the rip here is there are probably more compact ways to make it than the way we're going to make it. Um, but I kind of leave it open, and I'm not too worried about it being compact because I want everybody to understand what's going on and why. I see a bunch of tutorials that show you how to do different types of tunnel boring. Um, Essentially, I've kind of found a lack of information when it comes to making one work that don't use solar panels. I mean, it's great to demo your tutorial, but it's really nice to see it work without the solar panels because we all know solar panels don't work down there. So, let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to know is, and you can look up Rodis World on YouTube as well. He has a very good channel on this, and he's way more descriptive than I'm going to be because this tutorial is going to be pretty long as it is. You'll start with a charging system. You're going to be running your tunnel bore off of BT batteries. It's all part of the Blue Electric mod. And by doing that, you're going to have you don't have to have this many solar panels, but you're going to have to essentially build this if you want to be able to power a tunnel bore without any use of solar panels. Alright, let's get right to it. You've got an ender chest color coded accordingly to whatever you want your charging quote unquote circuit to be on. You're going to want a retriever, a battery box, and a filter. And you can use red power tubes or tube frames. I just use tube frames because it's squared, and I eventually go back and put panels over them like that. When you get to building the actual tunnel bore, you're definitely going to want to use the frames. Okay, so basically what happens is dead batteries will get pulled out of this ender chest. 5585 is dead battery item number. Will get pulled out, put into this battery box, charged, and then once it completes its charge, it'll then be retrieved back into the ender chest. So you can set your red alloy wire up how you want to communicate with these red power frames via lever, timer, however you want to do it, but it has to be an intermittent signal. You can't just turn the frames on with a lever and expect it to constantly cycle batteries. It won't work that way. So if we flick this lever, essentially what happens is it just took that good battery out. Now it's putting another bad battery back in. If you go right here, now we have one good battery and a stack of our used or spent batteries. Now we've received another new battery. And that process pretty much continues over and over again until you run out of juice right here. As you can tell, that's happening. We'll go back to daylight just in case we need it again later, and we'll shut this down. So just in that short period of time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, racked up on some pretty substantial amount of batteries. So let's move on. Now this is what you're going to be building on the actual tunnel bore. This exact same setup, set up just like this. Your filter is going to contain a charged battery. Your retriever is going to contain a dead battery or used battery. But it's going to be set up just like this. The only thing you can't see here is, I'm not going to break that block because I got red alloy wire on there, but it is essentially just another red power tube frame right there. You just want to make an L. Backwards L, but an L. Or if you want to look at it from this way, then you got an L. Either way. But this is what you're going to have to make to power your tunnel bore. Now what this does is this is an actual discharger. Again, check out Rodis World's tutorial on charging and discharging. He's goes way more in depth than I am going to on this. Um, but anyway, we'll fire it up here. Now what's happening here is the good batteries are being taken out and being put into the battery box. Now, as you can tell, a good battery will come in, builds the power of the battery box, and then on the next tick it leaves the battery box. So once you get everything set up, you could essentially just have these both running, one charging the batteries and one discharge batteries. And the reason they actually call this discharging is because you're taking the power away from those batteries and putting into this bat box. And you'll see why when we go to build the tonal board. Well, we'll turn this off for a minute and we'll get right to it because I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can. And it usually ends up taking longer than I want it to. So, first thing you're going to want is some support frames, some redstone tube frames, frame motor, your screwdriver, and you're going to want panels and covers, and I'll explain that in a minute as well. On the panels and covers, it don't matter. It can be diamond panels, iron panels, it don't matter. Same with the covers. The color doesn't matter. That's just your preference on how you want it to look. So, we'll start by, we'll just build it about 3 up starting out. Now you're going to propel this thing with any type of inch drive you want, whether it be designed horizontal or vertical. Either way, it's not really going to matter too much. Now, we're going to do a basic horizontal inch drive, just because me personally, I like having the bigger platform that we will eventually have when this is completed to put other things on. But anyway, okay, you're going to want to start by putting a frame motor here and here. Again, just a quick snapshot. If you need a pause or what have you, it's 4x4 frames. And with your screwdriver, if you just click it, right click it, the face of the arrows or the drive, the propulsion side of the block will stay the same. If you shift click it, it will change faces. And we want that drive motor facing that way. This motor is going to face the direction that your tunnel bore is going to dig. And we're going to do the same thing with this drive motor. Shift click it, get the arrows on the bottom, and then we want it to go this way. Now what's going to happen here is this motor is going to move this frame assembly. After that frame assembly has moved, essentially everything on this frame moves except for this motor. This motor stays in the same world gen block area that it's in now. But when that happens, it ends up next to this motor, which is going to push everything back into place just like it's sitting now. Okay, now something to note is you want to put a cover here, not a panel, a cover. This will try your patience a few times, I promise. And then take panels for everything else. Now, I probably shouldn't have covered those up because we're going to do something with that in a minute, but it's okay. Now, if you take note, the covers they're basically squared with no indication, no anything on the face of the cover other than the frame, the outer edge of it. A panel will have these little cutouts regardless of what texture pack you're running in. Again, I'm sorry I'm not running a default texture pack for this, but anyway, that's how you're going to be able to tell the difference in between the covers and panels after they're placed. A panel will let something stick to it. You know, that frame will forever be there if it's a panel or no panel at all, and it's just stuck frame to frame like that. A cover, on the other hand, as soon as this thing moves forward once, this block will not be carried with the tunnel bore. A cover, imagine a cover being as slick as ice. That's why I don't have that on there, because nothing's going to stick to it. Alright, so back to it. We made a 4x4. Now, your second, if you're standing looking at the engines or the motors at the current state that you got it built, 2 down, 3 over. Those 3, you're going to want to knock those out. And you'll see why in a minute. And you want to put redstone tube frames there. Okay. Now, we've got that. Remember we said we were going to put this set up to drive the tunnel bore. So we're going to have to build this. Those 3 frames that we just replaced with red power tube frames are those 3. That's why we done that. So let's jump back up here. And let's move some of this stuff out of the way for a minute. You know, we're going to need a filter, a battery box, retriever, and a ender chest matching the charging setup. You always want to color code your own ender chest for just the batteries. Don't use it with anything else you may be using on the server or what have you, because it'll cause a big jam up in your pipes and it just won't work correctly. Okay, now we're going to put this little dude together. And get our trusty screwdriver out. Alright, basically on your filter, your little line is going to be pointing to the right. Your retriever, the base, regardless of what texture pack you have, they all have pretty much this identification yellow top on it. Just make sure that's pointing down toward your tube frames. Okay, moving on. You want to take your redstone tube frames and come up to this point, just like that is right there, doing the same thing. And we might as well just go ahead and take one dead battery out of our ender chest, one dead or spent battery, and one good battery. And what we're going to do here is we're going to put the good battery in this filter and the dead battery in the retriever. Now it knows what we want, when we want it, how we want it, all that good stuff. Alright, moving on. Now, you don't have to extend this but 1 or 2 frames. I usually go a few more. I mean, it don't hurt anything. It's a little more room, a little better way to lay things out, so people can kind of understand what's going on here. Is the only reason I've done this. Okay, so let me panel this up, this surface that we're standing on, if I can learn to put panels on correctly. Oof. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Anyway, okay, so here we go. Now, next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get you some red alloy wire, a timer, a lever, which is optional, but you'll see why, and some jacketed wire. Alrighty. Now, we started out with the 4x4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just say this is what you didn't add this extension, so you're just playing with what you got here. You're going to put red alloy wire. You can do it like that and run it up, but really it's just as easy just to put it like that. So you get you a little U shape from your frame motor to your retriever, and you get a single piece of wire going into your frames. Then you want it coming out of your frames into here so that it can communicate and send a red pulse signal to this motor as well. Okay, now you're going to want your lever this is just so we don't have to hear all this ticking. It's bad enough you got to hear me running my jaws, more or less, listening to this thing tick the whole time. So, and you're going to need a redstone repeater. Now with the repeater, you're not going to have to set up, you're not going to have to worry about the ticks too much as far as timing it. All you want there to be is a delay between that motor and that motor. That's all we're shooting for here, nothing else. Now, you can time this stuff on a different lever to take a battery when you want it to take a battery or what have you. But just for a simplification of this tutorial and this build, we're just going to have this one red pulse signal operating when the batteries are taken out and put in, and when the motors are actuated to move these frames. Okay, so we're looking pretty good so far. Now, one thing that I have had trouble with in the past that I did not know is red alloy wire hooking to red power frames is kind of a pain in the butt. It's like, okay, that's not working. Well, that's what your jacketed wire is for. In case you've ever wondered why you can't get that to work, that's why. Well, there you go. So what we've done is we've sent a red pulse signal to this motor. This motor is going to push everything forward. Well, in that same process, it's going to fire the retriever to tell it, hey, I need a new battery to put in here so we can keep digging. The repeater is going to put a delay just long enough for this motor, after it has went to this position, to be moved back forward by this motor. Alright, I'm going to turn it on, and the first couple of clicks, it's probably not going to do anything because our battery box is dead. But what we're hoping for is that we have set this up correctly, and it'll start charging right before our eyes. And there we go. Now, I did this for a reason, and that reason is, alright, we got a problem. Now, we set this up just like we did that over there, but the ender chest didn't come with us. And the reason being for that is with these frames and frame motors and whatnot, is anything one block higher than what's stuck to the frame is kind of obsolete or omitted or forgotten. So this filter, the reason this filter stayed is because this tube frame is hooked to this tube frame, which is hooked to that one. So it knows that it's got to move all three of these. Well, this is stuck to the side of that, so it knows, okay, this is coming with us. So we end up with this ender chest that ain't coming with us, ain't doing what we want it to do. So we're just going to put it back there, and we're going to grab us some support frames. and run across like this. You don't want to go no further than this because then this motor will get hung up underneath there if you do it like that. Which is the reason we got a cover here and panels everywhere else, so that when this motor comes back it doesn't stick. Now, we should be good to go. Let's give her another try. Now our ender chest and everything else is moving with it. It's tootling on down the road having a big old time. Okay, now our battery's about dead. It pulled the one battery we had in the ender chest in there and charged it. Yeah, let's just go ahead and fire up our charging station. And this one we really don't have to have running. Now, what should happen is, now that we're charging batteries, is when we turn this on, now it should recognize that we've got charged batteries in this ender chest, and it's going to send them to that battery box, I'm sorry. And there goes your batteries. You can kind of see it out the corner there. And your power bar on your bat box is coming up. So, very simple so far. Pretty easy. Now we'll just finish up real quick. I do the whole top and panels. You don't have to, but I like to do the top and panels in case I want to stick something to it. And we will use, now we'll make our cutter. This is not going to be oscillating or, gyrating or anything like that. You can make them that high tech. I have made a couple that high tech, but other than the cool factor, it's just as easy to do this. Just make it stationary. It's simpler, a little easier to understand what's going on. Until you get a little better at it, then you can make it do pretty much anything you want. Okay, we'll do 6 wide. And 6 tall, sorry about that. And there you go. Now if you was planning on building anything underneath there, you could always take, and run these down and have your lip hanging down. However you want to do it. Overall, I could be wrong on this, but I believe one frame motor will move roughly 1,000 blocks. That counts each frame as a block, and believe it or not, it counts each cover as a block, and every piece of red alloy wire, motor, everything else. If you make this body right here just a little bit shorter, you could probably do like a 25 by 25. I built like some 20 by 20, which if you're in a multiplayer world, anything over 10 to 15 width and height, anything over like a 10 by 10, just for the sake of being a good Samaritan to the servers you play on, I wouldn't go any bigger than like a 10 by 10 because you start producing a little bit of lag, and it just affects the gameplay for everybody else if you just get really, really ginormous with this thing. Okay, on with it. You're going to want to grab block breaker. Now, this is another thing. Whenever you do a search when you're too many items list or whatever mod you're running or not running, you've got a couple different breakers. You've got your factorization breaker, and then you got your red power breaker. I know it sounds silly. Most of you already know this, but you want to use your red power breaker, not your factorization. The item number on that breaker is going to be 763:1. Anyway, you're just going to want to line all these red power tube frames red tube frames, or what the hell are they called? Redstone tube frames. Sorry about that. Alright, we got us a 6x6 cutting head. And that's pretty respectable, nonetheless. Okay, now going back to the panels and the covers. Again, a panel, you can stick stuff to it. A cover, nothing will stick to it. So, you know with your cutting head that when it goes to cut a tunnel, that the block right beside these blocks, it's not going to cut them. So you definitely don't want to go past it one and then these frames try to grab the block. And actually, I'll just leave one of these off so I can explain why. And this was kind of a dry spot in the video, but gotta be done. You basically want the whole bottom of your contraption to be laced with covers, not panels, covers, or anything that would possibly be touching a corresponding block in the tunnel that you're digging, which would mean the sides too. Now the reason I went 6x6 on this cutting head is because you can go 4x4. Like I said, you can make that thing any size you want as long as all this will clear behind it. But this motor being on the very edge of this block right here, what tends to happen is if your cutting head is the same width as your platform, you get a lava pool or something that starts dripping down and to get on this motor. Because it does that, it tries to take that lava pool block with it, and you end up with this motor right here causing you a lot of problems. So that's why I always build it at least one wider, the cutting head at least one wider than my platform. And if you wanted the extra room, I don't mean to be confusing right now, but you can make this the same width as the cutting head if you want. If you just want to make sure that you come back and put covers on it, in case you want to put you some lights or something like that on it. Some of the lamp blocks and whatnot. And we'll put panels there if you want. Think about the hardest thing of building one of these is putting all these dang covers on. Kind of a pain in the ass. Definitely want to make sure you put covers here as well. And don't forget the tops. We will just go ahead and make this the same width. Again, you don't have to do this. You can stop with the 4x4 area that we started with. And I'll show you why I want to go ahead and do it that way. Well, actually, that may make it run longer than I want. But we'll just finish it up with this. Putting covers down through here. Like that. Cover the bottom. And we'll put panels here. Now, if you wanted to make it this wide, but you wasn't going to put a roof or any kind of awning or anything like that over it, which I suggest once you get a little more advanced with it and you build them bigger and whatnot, you'll want to do. Then instead of putting these panels here, you would actually put covers, just for the sake that something could possibly land on it and try to stick to it or what have you. Again, this section right here, same thing. These don't have to be, they can be panels or covers. I do panels because I stick lights and all kind of goofy stuff on them. But anyway, this is running a little longer than I wanted it to, so let's finish up. Alright, so just kind of do a quick fly around and make sure that you have this thing covered from head to toe. No open frames. Well, we got one there, and I'll show you why. Okay, let's get everything else is basalt. Might as well put this up here too. Alright, let's say we tell it to go, and we forgot to put a cover there, or we put a panel instead of a cover there. What is going to happen is when this thing goes to drive, wait a minute, it's not going nowhere. And the reason for that is because it can't move that block in front of it. Put that block back, you have the same issue. Take it away, it'll drive again. So if you're cutting a tunnel 6 by 6 and one block, that's all it takes is one block to get stuck. And after your cutter head proceeds, it's not going to let you go anywhere. So, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but use covers. Covers. The outer extremities of your contraption should all be covers. Bottom as well. Okay. Going back to panels. Again, they got the little corner pieces so that you can tell what's what. We're going to need some red alloy wire, a timer, a lever, and some more of that jacketed wire. Now you got to plumb the red alloy wire into this red tube frame cutter head, so that when you flick this lever, it starts doing the cut. Okay, this is the next little issue you'll run across. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Now, it was breaking them, now it's not. Well, the reason for that is because when these tube frames, the way they're coated, they can only hold so much. They're not like Buildcraft pipes where they'll just keep circulating and accumulating more and more and more. So basically your pipes are full. Now I'm going to come over here for just a second. I'm not getting off topic with this, I hope, but alright, we know we got green as our charging for our charger station and our batteries. So let's just say purple. Alright, we got a applied energetics set up here with crafting computer, and we run all these mods on our Family X gaming server, Tekkit Lite server, if you guys ever want to go check that out by chance. And you can take these enders and essentially you can make wireless ME with it. And you don't have to even do this, but we're going to do it just because. We can take this import bus and we'll take our ender chest and just put it right there. And we use the all purple one. So we have nothing in this terminal. It's completely empty. But if we take that same color coded ender chest, and you can put a crystal chest in here or what have you, the ender is just really nice because it's, if you're running applied energetics, it's awesome because you don't have to worry about it. And any of these frames that you left open, you can put it. Now you see the basalt bricks that we broke are going into the ender right there. And they're just hanging out. Well, even with the 6x6 tunnel, you could get a lot of material really quick. And with that happening, chest alone without an ender chest, and you're just trying to keep up with it, it's probably, it's might near impossible. So anyway, but that's how you can hook your tunnel bore to your ME. I know that's a little off topic. We'll get back to it. But there you go. There's your 6x6 tunnel bore. Now we couldn't cut those before. We'll put us a couple panels over here because we decided to put that chest right there. Now what we're hoping is that now it'll cut those blocks again. And there you go. So it's just cutting away, having a big old time. On this setup right here, if you watch, the return rate is almost dead on 1 second to go back then forward. So you can play with the timers and set it up how you want. But at 1 second, I actually go just a smidget over a second, just for lag or what have you. What this should do is instead of it moving every 2 seconds or what have you, you should be able to get the peak performance out of this setup. It should basically, as soon as that motor returns, be getting the red pulse signal again. As you can tell, that's pretty dadgum close. And you will get, every once in a while, it'll mislick like that, but nothing to worry about. Now, with our cutter off right there, you don't necessarily have to have that lever. That's what I was saying earlier. And the reason being is because if these breakers are not getting a signal, it's not going to go anywhere. So this is just going to sit here and be ticking, making all kinds of racket. Now on this, you know that your tunnel bore is moving roughly inch per second. I mean, 1 block per second. So you don't want your cutter head to be what's stopping you. If you can handle, if you can bear the ticking, just lower it all the way down to, 0.200, and just let that sucker go. And we'll just run that out a little bit, and we'll go with it. And there you go. A tunnel bore that don't have no freaking solar panels on it. It will work underground, no problems. Like I said, the body itself doesn't have to be this long. The cutting head can be any size you'd like, um, up to about 25 by 25. And have fun with it. If you liked the video, let me know. If you hate it, let me know. If you, either way, this is my first solo video. Have fun. This is One Shot with Family X Gaming. Catch you next time.